if you look at what has been announced so far, you have, of course, more monetary support for employers, for people and all that. But it doesn't sound very different from what was announced last year, the year before. Does it help? Is it effective?
The way I was thinking about it was, it's like, you know where the problem is? But you take a bucket of water and you just like pour on it. You know, really where you probably want to be is be a bit more precise as to where the issue or problem statements are, and then target it a bit more.
Welcome back to the TFC Budget Debate. I'm your host, Reggie, a.k.a. your Chief Financial Coconut, and I'm John with...
Dawn, budget babe, who had nothing to do with the official budget, but I'm here to give my 2 cents anyway.
And the joke's lamer and lamer.
I can only make this joke once a year, so bear with it.
Yes. But she never joined our first panel because girl was busy. Busy. Right, but she will join us today.
I made time today.
Yes, to discuss employment. It's an extension of Wise and Shine. Actually, you think about it, right? So let's see where this goes. And 2 good friends, but for our audience that don't know you.
Okay, thanks for inviting me. I'm Adrian. I am a fractional CMO, also a author of a book on self-employment called No More Bosses.
So how are you still happy having no more bosses?
Yeah, as the saying goes on solopreneurship, you have the toughest manager and the laziest employee roll into one. So, no more bosses is good lah, but also challenging lah.
Yeah, challenging lah. Yes. And Puay Lim for all this that don't know you.
Hi, I'm Puay Lim. Thanks for having me today. Currently doing some part-time and also, I guess, fractional consulting work in the HR space. Spent the past number of years as a business leader at Glint, which is a venture-backed HR business, human capital. Yeah.
So today's episode is on PMEs, right?
Yes.
So why you invite 2 unemployed persons?
Is that like an eventuality of all PMEs?
We show you the
future. So you're here to project the future.
Watch this 5 years later. Or 1 year later.
So sad. Okay. So let's bring it back. We're not saying PMEs will lose your job. And to be fair, I think 2 of you asked for it one. Like you own self want to leave one.
Own self.
Right? You're not the like, hey, please go give you a letter, handshake. No, you own self fire yourself, okay? You quit, right? So you made a decision, so it's different. Okay, but anyway, that does not mean that there are no market forces or there are no social realities at play, right? It could be because you're in a phase of life with kids, with all the changing priorities, then you make a move forward, right? So whether you are PMEs deciding to make a decision out of corporate grind or not deciding but moved out of corporate grind, either way, I think the market looks a bit interesting, right? So we have a lot of pet discussion alongside the budget. There's all these firings, all these bigger organizations doing their whole thing, right? So it is hard. It is what it is. And that's why today we want to spend some time to talk about employment, talk about the budget, and see whether there are certain things that we can, do about it, right? Okay. So yes, how about we roll out first, open up the floor, any interesting things that you've caught during the budget tied to employment. Also can tie to the employers because employers make the employment decision, right? So any interesting things that caught your eyes?
To be honest, like I told you earlier on, I'm quite numb to desensitized, to the kind of initiative that's been rolled out because it seems to be a lot of tweaking. Yeah, it's always tweaking. Or instead of 10,000, we give 12,000, as if it's going to make a world of difference. So things like that, I'm not really sure how it would move the needle forward. And I do think we really need, the fake Einstein quote, right? You keep doing the same thing over and over again, you expect different results. It's insanity, lah. Yeah. So I think going back, if you look at what has been announced so far, you have, of course, more monetary support for employers, for people and all that. But it doesn't sound very different from what was announced last year, the year before. The past 5 years is always SkillsFuture this, SkillsFuture that. So the joke we were talking about was like, it's becoming a Panadol. Yeah, at home, any problem, you just Panadol. So does it help? Is it effective?
I was also hoping for more kind of like mid-long-term infrastructure or capacity or capability built kind of announcements. I think that was some of it. So I think some stuff around like SUSS and a new campus. That's also a bit like, okay, new campus, but it's not just hardware, right? It's really, I think
but that's the thing we're good at, right? Building hardware, right? Then we talk about biopolis. We built this biopolis long time ago. That's what we're very good at. Build houses, build things. We build a whole nation, right?
Maybe the software takes a longer time. I don't know. Maybe the software part is a lot more complex. But that's where I kind of feel like directionally, I think the intention is consistent. It's great. I think they know that there's a need there. But it feels a little bit like he calls it Panadol. The way I was thinking about it was it's like where the problem is, but you take a bucket of water and just like pour on it. When really where you probably want to be is be a bit more precise as to where the issue or problem statements are, and then target it a bit more. But I didn't really feel like that was a strong.
I think that's a great point, because every function, every company, every industry will have slightly different parameters they have to deal with. And if you think about it, you look at all the success cases. Maybe I did not observe enough, but you don't really have a lot of regular success use case. Yeah, every time I read about SkillsFuture in the news is, vendor A scam SkillsFuture, vendor B scam SkillsFuture. But where is Mr. Tan got help by SkillsFuture and all that? You don't really see a lot of that. So I think it in itself may also give people the impression that, are you sure this is working out for me?
So actually the government needs to do more marketing for the successful cases.
No, to be fair, I don't think it's about marketing, because sometimes you need things to market.
That's right.
When
you say market,
you need stories to tell.
I think even in my audience, like I do get a lot of messages from readers and everything, right? I've never ever gotten a message about someone using SkillsFuture to find a new job. But I've had a lot of messages from people saying, hey, this course got SkillsFuture can claim or not? Or, hey, this one I want to go this as a backup. Can use SkillsFuture or not? And that's about it. It really is that vehicle to change their career pathway.
Correct. Recently, I had knew some people who were in transition looking for a new job. And hey, use SkillsFuture. Oh, what do you use SkillsFuture for? Oh, use it to learn baking just to pass some time and have some fun. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people use it
My
on
aunt was
just
very
baking.
high when she came in and said, hey, I baked this cake at SkillsFuture workshop. And to be fair, I think that is already in some sense a few steps ahead already.
At least got utilization.
At least there's utilization. And I would believe, I don't know, because you have been in the space a bit longer, I believe a few years ago, people were not as active in thinking of like, learn this thing, try that thing, do that thing. I feel like it's less of a talk of the town. But nowadays it's like, hey, okay, you try this thing.
To be fair, I think there's the mindset part is moving in the right direction. But I think where the gap is like what we were saying just now, right? You go into the SkillsFuture portal, there's like thousands of offerings, right? And then as a learner or as an individual, where do you start, right? What do you know? How do you know where to go and which one to go for?
Maybe what they need to do is that when you land on the website, you need to do a quiz first. Survey. Then after
Which
that, you
Star Wars
filter.
character are you?
Right. Then filter already, right? Instead of the 1,000 over, you only see like maybe 10 to 20.
Okay.
You remove that whole fallacy of choice.
Okay.
By the way, I got use SkillsFuture.
Okay.
I learned how to make Thai food.
Okay.
Yeah.
You see, never mind.
So did you make that your career?
Yeah. No, it's okay.
And that's the thing. I did not make it my career. So yes, if you want to measure utilization rate, people took up SkillsFuture, they utilize how much, but what is it for? Make coffee, gardening. Not that these are frivolous stuff, but are you using those to transit into a career? I don't see a lot of use case. And the other thing is SkillsFuture for the longest time has been very stingy on what qualify for a SkillsFuture subsidized course. I get where they're coming from. Gonna scam before, don't get scam again. So they are very specific on which vendor you can use it and a lot of pre-qualification. But in a way, it's good that you close the door to guard it, but at the same time, you're missing out a lot of stuff. Like for example, one good use case is, why don't you finance executive coach? So people who is still working, executive coach, I can upskill, but I cannot afford executive coach. Just nice, what? Executive coach, how to measure, things like that. So you want to prevent that 1% from cheating you. You prevented 99% legit case from using it.
What I want to take stock is whether has this program even encouraged people to have lifelong learning ideas, right? That means like take lifelong learning more and say, I can learn from Budget Bay, I can learn from another program, I can go for a program to learn how to make coffee.
Maybe if anything, it is AI that make people realize you really need to have lifelong learning.
So you really don't want to give SkillsFuture the credit.
No, I think it has become very pertinent in recent years. Ever since ChatGPT came out, that AI can really remove a lot more jobs. In the past, right, we zoom back just 5-10 years ago, we were all saying this is going to happen. But nobody really believed it. Then ChatGPT came out, and I'm seeing even like my lawyer friends use ChatGPT to write the contract and then just edit from there, right?
Why use template one? Why charge me a bomb? sorry.
Yeah, but the point is now AI really is becoming a real threat. So I think humans are also getting scared. They're also realizing that, you see the other thing, right? If we remember back in 2022, a lot of the companies were saying we're on a cost-cutting exercise. Suddenly, they got billions of dollars to spend on AI. So where did that money actually come from? It came from employee wages because they were axing off employees to go and reinvest it into AI. And then all those who had been axed were all going on social media. Then we had all the talks about layoffs and retrenchments. And people are realizing that, if I don't do anything to make myself more valuable than technology, my boss is just going to use AI to replace me. I think that really was what moved the needle.
I actually feel it might have motivated people. But of course, the start of the journey is you already have an interest. By the way, SkillsFuture is there. Why don't I use SkillsFuture money to finance that interest? Because around the people that I see, it falls into mainly two buckets. One is never touch a single cent one. The other bucket would be, when is the next top up? Yeah, because they use up everything. So once you have a taste of, if free 90%, okay, then I learn something, they may learn something else. Not that it will lead to a job, but the lifelong learning part.
Okay, and what about you?
I would say, I think yes. I think definitely it's made that kind of awareness it kind of enters the conversation. So people will at least talk about it because the sheer accessibility and availability of it is there and it's easy, right? But what I was going to say was that I think what I wish we are hearing more of is that it's not just the individuals, but it's like your bosses or your companies that you work for are actually saying to you, hey, actually, SkillsFuture is this, and there's a program there that I think is really relevant. Maybe you guys should go for it, right? And, we can co-pay, we can match dollar for dollar, something like that, right? To make it accessible for you. That I don't think is in the conversation.
No, I don't think so. Okay, so we take stock first, right? So SkillsFuture, I personally can take the position that I think it has promoted more conversation about lifelong learning, right? Because it's not just say lifelong, say upskill, right? And you get people into that habit, that whole thing, and I think it has possibly have some positive effects even beyond employment, right? Like people try new things, have new facets or new hobbies in life, right? So that's the part out. The questionable part is the employment conversion, right? Or the actual upgrading, of an individual in terms of their capabilities and their skill stack, so that they can make more and all that, right? So in this part, we all believe that it doesn't work.
Not good enough.
Okay. What do you think?
Like what we've discussed, so it's not leading to enough successful outcomes.
So what would you suggest then? Because I think in this budget there is no real other methods. It's just like what Adrian said, just give a bit more. Okay, now not just full-time learning, part-time also give you a bit more. $300 can do what? $300 may cover your Grab. right. Like on a good day, you take a MRT to learn something, right? You go to the school.
SkillsFuture can use to go for driving course or not? Then I can justify conversion to Grab driver. I no license yet.
Okay. So it's unlikely gonna motivate individuals.
I think for me, when I was listening
ways.
to the whole budget, what stood out or the lack of what really stuck out like a sore thumb was the fact that in the last 2 years, we've had so many conversations. And maybe because I'm a bit more sensitive to this, because I have a lot of readers coming to me and say, Don, I lost my job, or Don, I'm really worried about being laid off. What should I do? Do you have any advice, right? And that has been ongoing already for like 1.5 easily, if not 2 years. I felt like this year's budget was a little bit deaf to that. I honestly expected more to have been put in to help this, but the only thing they did was to reiterate that they have this program for the job seeker scheme, right, which gives you 6,000. At first it sounds like, not bad. Then you realize, actually that's not new. It already exists. So what have you put in that is new, that acknowledges the new struggles that this generation of your citizens are facing? Because the layoffs are hitting a lot of people, and many of these people have kids and caregiving duties and liabilities to pay for. But we don't really see much help for them in the budget.
Okay, fair. So just to kind of push that conversation a bit, right? I think it's a fair statement, and I think a lot of people are talking about it. And I mean, I think last year or the year leading up to the budget, our best performing episode of Wise and Shine is about retrenchment. That's the best performing episode, right? Like, so
it's the one that resonates with the most number of people.
And there's a lot of slew of retrenchment during this period of time, right? And a lot of them, I think, are working professionals, not the junior roles. The junior roles will get structurally shipped out, in my point of view, right? They will get shipped out to lower cost countries, or maybe some of the AIs will take over some parts of it. And that's a different discussion, not totally our audience, but think for a lot of us, we have the professionals, the management, the middle managers. I think those guys are getting a lot of retrenchment experience, right? So if let's say today I throw you the problem, right? Like today you are the ministry or the agency, right? What do you think are some things that they could explore, to promote this career conversion? Like okay, you learn, right? Okay, you fall out of the league. Now you learn something.
But it's two different conversations, right, Reggie?
Yeah.
Because there's a structural one around skills and jobs mismatch, which I think is more of a mid to long term thing that's going on. Then there's a very short term, immediate thing that's going on right now, which is I think more linked to economic cycles than anything else. The macros are not looking good. There's uncertainty at least, right? To be more as generous as possible, it's just uncertainty. So you're on a down cycle. There are going to be people who are affected. It's a different thing.
Yeah. So maybe that's how the government sees it, right? It is not structural. It is cyclical. So given that it is cyclical, then you don't need to do anything about it, right? You some sort, not say don't need lah. I mean, you tong lah, you tahan a bit. It's like how you can shout until the cow come home. HDB don't shift some of those policies, right? So it's still what it is, because the government of the day believes that there are certain positions that are structural and they need to stay. And if there's no structural risk, there's no need to change, right? So is that a fair statement? That means the current problem is a cyclicality problem, not something that we need to change this whole thing, blah blah blah.
I think there's certain truth to it, but of course we also have to look at the individual's function, industry, all that will come into play lah. And I feel I've been catching up on this 2019 K-drama. Romance is a bonus book. So in the K-drama, the lead actress, after 7 years or 8 years of being a housewife, cannot go back to the job market because everyone is like, you're out of market, you're degree holder leh. My entry level people 10 years younger than you. So she tore up her degree and then go and find job that, I only got high school. And that helped her land an internship. But where I'm coming from is actually a lot of people out there can do the job one. But because of how we are so fixated on those checkbox stuff, or degree lah, this lah, that lah. Oh, sorry. Oh, you 2 years never work. Rusty. So how do we bridge that? I think one way to your question about, if I were to do it, how do I do it? I think many, many years ago, there was actually this government initiative called Job Trial. Basically, encourage you to take on a job trial. Obviously, it's not for a young intern lah, but same but different. So you will go through this job trial in hope that by end of the trial, the company will hire you lor. Yeah. So instead of me guessing, whether I should hire you or not, should I take the risk? You let government take the financial risk. If good, I take you on. Then I disregard whether you got degree or not. You can do the work. Why I care so much? Ultimately, that's what SME wants.
It's like the 3-month trial during JC.
So what happened to that policy?
I don't know. It was a very, very old policy. But somehow it just, as with all government policy that never get continued, they just silently fade it out. Yeah, they never announce one.
Yeah, but that sounds like a good initiative. So I'm surprised that didn't continue.
Maybe the industry is not interested to continue. Because, as much as you say job trial sounds very good from a government standpoint, right? It also sounds very good from the individual standpoint, right? But from an industry standpoint, how long you want me to trial you? 3 months, 6 months, right? Maybe in a month, I already know whether I want you. Because if government policy cannot be 1 month, right? They will tell the company, you want to take this, you must do 6 months. Something like that, right? By the first month, I gotta know whether you can, because you're not freshy, right? So you already have relatively entrenched work ethics. You have relatively entrenched ideas of how things should be done, and you should have some sort of familiarity of flows and processes and all that. Maybe you do need to make some adjustments in the industry. You need to make some adjustments in the company. But at some point, I already know. And if you need me to train you 6 months, right? You're very junior.
I've heard positive examples of this. Quite recent one actually. I heard that I think it was one of the big FMCG. I think it was Unilever. So they are actually trialing a kind of internship program for experienced professionals, PMEs.
It's called returnship, right?
Yes, you're right, returnship.
Yeah, it's called returnship. Yes.
I will impose this as a rule for all foreign companies. The big foreign companies, like you said earlier on before this conversation. Someone come from Meta, someone come from this. You got the branding there. So it's a win-win situation, but you not penalize, but you pass the burden over to the big company who can easily allocate a team of people to do the training. And even if P&G, Unilever don't hire them, my returnship, I have 6 months Unilever experience. If it's different.
Basically, what I know is that it was either, I think it was Unilever. So they basically sign up for some program where they open up I think 30 over positions for so-called 40 or 45 plus PMETs who are kind of like in some kind of, I guess, fractional or part-time capacity, transition capacity, right? So they come in and I think they do about like 3 months worth of work and then they decide whether they want to extend the contract or not. I don't think the offer is to convert them into perm hires, but potentially 6 months or 12 months contract hires. And apparently there was a first run of it that was about a year ago, and now they're thinking about doing another run with more functions involved. But that's just, I wanted to connect the dots a bit, right? Because earlier on I said that there's a kind of a cyclical thing that just happens. I think that's always the case because the economy runs in cycles. But structurally, there is actually an issue here with aging workforce in Singapore, right? So if you look at the demographics and you look at where the the age distribution is heading towards, are there so-called more people who are falling within that more, I guess, vulnerable range where you may be laid off because you're deemed to be, I don't know, beyond a certain over the hill or whatever, and therefore more in need of help? There probably is, right? And then things like that would become a lot more relevant. If you want to connect it back to the budget, right, then I would say, again, to Adrian's point earlier, it just felt like more of the same when it comes to that intergenerational or senior workforce kind of policies, right? Where I think it was more around the wage offsets and the change of the age thresholds, which is something we've seen before, but I don't think fundamentally changes the picture. If you said that, the government or the GLCs and prodded the local enterprises in a way to do things like returnships, which signals to the job market that, hey, there are skill sets here which are valuable, there's experience here that's valuable, and there's ways to make it work, I think that can go quite a long way.
Yeah, I like the idea that Adrian posed for the returnship with these big foreign companies. And because at the end of the day, you have to treat the SMEs and the foreign companies differently, right? One has less resources, less time, but values the branding that comes from the big company. So by doing it in this way, and if the government could have, let's just take away another, like maybe the enterprise credit, because I feel like that was really just not much. If you put that to, let's say, matching a dollar-to-dollar pay for the returnship, why not? That might actually lead to better employable outcomes than just putting SkillsFuture on the individual.
Okay, there's
Please
a difference
vote for me during the upcoming election.
Yeah. Hey, what? Is that why you accept to come on the podcast? There's a different side to this story. We go there in a while, but just want to give a shout out to Kai Ning because I think this returnship idea was championed by the Courage chapter, right? And actually we invited her today, but she couldn't make it because she's sick. And apparently response was very good, and not just Unilever, other bigger organizations are also looking at it, right? And there are some sectors where they always struggle to hire because they don't pay very well, like the kind of like social services, all that. It's kind of open to this thing also because firstly, you don't pay very well, right? And then you very hard to compete in the talent market, right? Then now there's a ready pool of people that are pretty talented, and they probably have gone through, let's put it this way, they probably have gone through the peak of their accumulation process, right? They are in their late 40s, they at first they ride high in the major leagues with the MNCs, make all the money already, then bought their house, everything settled down, right? Then now they a bit like one do also
looking for different things.
Looking for different things. So maybe as a different phase of life, you reprioritize that. Then a returnship to explore, the social services sector or the charitable sector, right? Then that could be a way to capture some of this talent, right? So that we can continue to stay relevant and don't just like float lah. I want to move the conversation back into the job trial, but talking about the career conversion program, right? Maybe the job trial was the first iteration of career conversion program. So the career conversion program essentially is a grant where government will work with you to hire somebody, and then during a 9-month period, they will offset the cost of this person, right? I think up to 70%, or was it 80%?
Yeah, about.
Can be even higher if you're older, I think.
Yeah. So there's a good amount of that. And I think for the past few years, there were some attempts, right, from some of the big MNCs and all that. So before I share my thoughts, anybody has anything to say about the career conversion program? Because that is essentially a method, right? Not just about SkillsFuture anymore. Right now, we're trying to build a bridge for the people that have fallen out to go back in, right? So any thoughts there based on what you know?
It's actually a pretty successful program, but of course, depending on the function they are trying to CCP into. So when I first got to know about it, analytics was just a new thing. Everyone chung analytic, everyone chung big data, that kind of stuff, to the extent the vendor not enough space to accommodate. Yeah, and that became very successful because everyone was latching onto it. So there have been many successful use cases. But again, ultimately, it also depends very much on the kind of people that they try to bring in as well. Because we also have heard some horror stories. People come, yeah, I try 1 week, I don't like, then how? So yeah, but overall, I think it is still a good direction to hit.
I have a
Different view.
different view from the ground because I agree that a lot of people chiong for particular elements of it. But my sense from speaking to those who have, or the employers who have endorsed it and gone for it, the perspective tends to be, it's because the grant is so attractive. It's like something like, it's like 70 to 90%
It's crazy.
of
I think, if 40 years old and above is even higher.
90,
yeah,
I
about
think,
90.
yeah. And
yes.
it's like 6 months if you're a new hire, 3 months if you're reskilling or something like that, right? And you convert it absolute amounts, right? On a per person basis, it's something like, I don't know, $15,000 or $20,000 of payroll savings, So it's very attractive to especially SMBs, right? Because you're looking for your cost pressures and all that. You're looking for ways to save some money on that. So I think that tends to become, it kind of refocus into, that becomes the primary consideration in many instances, rather than, oh, okay, I know what skills I need, and please guys, please go and upskill or reskill yourself, or I hire someone to convert them, I don't know, non-techie to techie, use the grant to alleviate the pain. Is the framing is not maybe what you want it to be. So that's kind of my impression.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so the government also not idiot, right? They put you inside hoping that you become sticky within the organization and then you get entrenched. Then the HR will say, okay, we convert you full-time because you are carrying too many processes that we cannot drop you now, right? So I think that's what everybody would like, right? So that's why you probably give a longer gestation period, right? 6 to 9 months. So from here, then now very hard to move you out already, right? If you've been floating around for 6 months, I also don't know what you're doing, right? So if you sit in my organization for 6 months, you better carry some heavy things such that you are no longer as dispensable at the end of it, and then you stay on, right? So I think that's kind of how people think about it, or at least that's how I read about how the government thinks about it, lah. Okay, but word on the ground, okay, I think this one I can quote. Shirley came on the show in the previous podcast, right? Mums at work. So I think they have 60 over 1,000 mums in their Rolodex, right? And they have done a lot of these career conversion placements and all these things, essentially trying to welcome mums back into the workforce, right? And mums leave the workforce for all sorts of reasons. A lot of them believe that they still have to offer, so they, through this career conversion program, they come back in. Okay, and she said that for a lot of the MNCs, right, actually not very effective. Okay, because the MNCs, they have very extensive, hiring mechanisms. Right, they have a lot of pools of talent. They got a lot of things, and essentially they don't really need this, lah. Okay, so a lot of them are doing national service. Like a lot of the big MNCs, the GLCs, they will do national service. Okay lah, Zheng got this lah. Okay, HR, do 100. Okay, take 100 of these people in, bring them in. Let's see what can happen. But actually, there's no real need for them because they already have a very extensive, talent pipeline. Right. So from there, it's like, why do I need another bunch of people that come in, and lack of better way to put it, like mess up my plan. Right. So they're actually not particularly invested in nurturing these people because there's no need to, right? And I can understand from a business standpoint, you don't need to. Then the HR look at them, voila, this become like a passing around bubble, It's like, hey, you want to do not? Don't want? You want to do not? You don't? No, it's like, oh, okay, then you all just sit around, right? So not great. So that's the MNC experience. Not too different from the MNCs, okay? But she found a lot of success with the SMEs. Right, so like the 30 people up, down type of headcount, right? So small enterprises that are, just really doing the grind and they value that type of like experience. And sometimes you talk to all these working professionals, right? Just because by virtue that they've been in the industry for a long time, they just tell you, hey, don't do this. Why? That is already a lot of value upside already, right? So a lot of these smaller companies became a good place to hold these, returnees, right? And I think that could be something that we think a little bit more about, right? And from a SME Tauke standpoint, right, I can fathom a guess that I think it's accurate, because it's very, very expensive to hire. A very big problem on the talent crunch element. I can never outbid the big boys to get the best talent at their prime. So it's like you watch the soccer like that, right? The best people all in the major leagues, right? At some point when they're 35, 36, then they rotate to the junior leagues, right? But they're still very good, right? So we're very happy to bring them in as long as they can, value add to the organization and don't mind the type of value add that can give them in their lives. A new function, then great. But it's just something interesting to highlight that maybe some of these smaller companies should firstly open up to this idea, and at the same time, probably we could see how to, study this a bit more.
So to help these companies open up to this idea, they could take away some of the other grants and put into a dollar-to-dollar matching grants for this specific category. And that might be more employable. So I'm coming back to this because SkillsFuture is very much individual driven at this point. The reality is that when you put SkillsFuture on the individual must know very well, must have a very high level of self-awareness and understanding on what their skills are, their direction in life and where they'll go. So they need to know what they're not good at. Right? For me, when I use my SkillsFuture, right, I use it on things that were ancillary to what I could do. So it would be a backup. I could go into a different industry that is similar to what my skill set is, and I know I can transfer those skill set there. I will just need to learn the basic, the beginning, the industry stuff lah. But for many people, they may not have that awareness. So let's say, for instance, we all know, the trend of big data, AI, right? But the hard truth is, not a lot of people are going to be suitable for those industries. And if you put the money, exactly, you put money for them to go and learn it, they might also then through the course realize that it actually waste my time. I'm really not cut off for this. Then what? Wait for the next SkillsFuture top up to go for your next course?
That's also not SkillsFuture is not the right mechanism to address
exactly.
that. That's very different.
Exactly. But when you put it onto the company by dollar matching this way, right, it gives the company an option to hire someone with a skill set from another job that could come in and then see where their match is. They may retain the person for a different role than what the person originally applied in.
So let's have a extended discussion on this, right? So firstly, I think there's a little bit of element of fallacy of choice, right? Which I think it's quite prevalent in policies today, right? Because government does not want to seem as paternal. Okay, so because there was a period of time, it was there is like Ah Kong say must do this, right? So they don't want that thing, right? Because I think probably their comms people have done some ground survey and do calculation and say this one not very popular. Alright, so even when I receive the comms brief, they say, hey, we want to say this way. All these things have been changing. Okay, so it enter a space of like, you can choose on your own. We do all this. There's a marketplace you take, right? So it's the same with even with CPF, with SkillsFuture, even with the BTO, all this. It's more and more like, there's a lot of choice, up to you. But it creates a fallacy of choice because most individuals probably will have incomplete information in terms of making the best in class decision. So have we gotten too far, right? So this is a bit of an ideological discussion. We don't need to. What is interesting to then understand is that there are certain categories that are more important than others that we do need to point the audience towards, right? And there are some realities in Singapore that will never change. First and foremost, we are a port, right? We just invested an additional 5 billion into the Changi Fund. We have an automated Tuas port, which is like roller one. If you don't know, it's like roller, right? So there's no more lorries, right? So we are first and foremost a port. So anything revolving around the port, right, is good business. Okay, we're a finance hub. Probably you may or may not have heard this thing, but I think Chee Hong Tat went on 8 World for an interview and he said, as part of my role with the Ministry of Finance, we're seeing a lot of hiring in finance, right? So he directly tell you already, finance, a lot of hiring. You can be a designer, you can be HR, you can be project manager, you can be any generalist role that you love and be in finance, right? Maybe a bit boring lah, like I always tell my friends from media, right? You want to join finance, media can. Adjust your creative requirements, right? And you will have a good life. Okay? So logistics is one thing, media and finance is another thing. I think we were talking a little bit about research hub, right? We did invest more money into the research element, but like what you say, there's an apex to STEM. Okay, most people will never survive in this category, right? It's a space where you put a lot of money, then a lot of the smartest people will come here and do the research, right? Because that's what people will pursue. But what is interesting is then around this research, can you monetize it? Can you create downstream product? Manage the business from there. And I think Singaporeans are quite good at that lah.
Singapore we've never shied away from having an industrial policy, right? We'll cherry pick our bets to say what we are good at or what we really want to be good at, right?
I feel like there was a period of time we were a bit afraid to do industry policies because there were some failures along the way.
You win some, you lose some, right?
So don't scared. We must take some policies. Yes.
So I think you're absolutely right? I mean, because and if you rewind the clock, right, you look at like I guess in the early days it was like manufacturing, right? Then I think, was it the late 90s? And that was when the finance hub and all that. And it was actually very directly connected to policy initiatives when it comes to how you train and how you educate, right? Because I remember in the 90s, betraying a bit of age, right? Because that's the time we went to university and all that, right? Then they would say, like, yeah, because we're trying to build up a financial center in Singapore to serve this region. So there were a lot of initiatives that were pointed that direction to say, if you were a graduate and then, there was like a way to enter the banks and the financial services institutions that was actually being paved, right? So how you train and how you get was directly connected to where the industrial policy was pointing towards. I think the challenge, and I like what you said also about, when you talk about, because they clearly did say in this budget, right? The future is in AI, it's in technology.
You can do all the skills,
Yeah.
but these are the things we're investing in.
Biopharma, life sciences.
Just so you know.
Yeah, just so you know, just so you know, we're investing in this thing and we're experiencing success here.
I think there's also an element which they still don't know what's the secondary or the spillover, right? Like you say, right? The trickle down effects to the value chain where new jobs and new value creation is going to be. Reality is nobody knows.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's frontier, ma.
Correct.
Yeah.
So then if you talk about the frontier part, then you say, of course, then you need to have more engineers, you need to have more data scientists. But as you say, that's very top stuff,
Very apex one.
That's not SkillsFuture. That's
It's not SkillsFuture.
That's like a 4-year
like-
university degree,
And then
right?
a master's,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Master's gets you in the
Yeah.
door these days, yes.
And so I think that's the challenge that they also face. So quite sympathetically, I would say, yeah, I think there was directionally in the budget that said, this is where the bets are going to be, guys. Okay, now I'm going to make it easier for you to get access to upskilling and reskilling. I'm going to try and encourage your companies to go in that direction. But how prescriptive can they be? I think that's
Of
the
course,
hands are so
of
tight.
course, of course. Objectively, when we look at it, that is the reality. That is where the bets are going. We'll continue to be hubs, continue to do all these things. Then why you want to do other things, right? And it goes into another discussion, like, are we putting all the expectations on career? Right, your life must everything fulfillment and everything all tied to career, but that is a different discussion. Okay, so continue to watch Rise and Shine. Right, I plug for you. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is there are some of these policies that are around to help you pace through some of these transition processes, and there's also major industry policies that are industrial policies that are coming in or have already been playing out. That maybe it is time to just think about like, hey, can I position myself? I love to create, or I'm like a HR, I'm very good. Then why you cannot be HR for Changi Group? Right. There are many industries that are a bit better, and we must accept that Singapore being Singapore, there are natural advantages in certain industries, and figure a way how you manage this lah. Yeah, and I think that probably will be a bit better. In closing, any last things you want to add? Maybe for our audience. Maybe for our audience.
More, but nothing to do with employability.
Yeah.
More CDC vouchers, not bad. Then the kid, not bad. You have so many kids, you have extra money. Yeah, so not bad.
Are you gonna have more kids?
No.
That's a different discussion. Okay. Yes. For two of you.
So expand the usage of SkillsFuture. Let me buy books lah. Then Kinokuniya will not have to shrink.
I
things
saw
like
you were
that.
talking about it. Yeah.
So because it's all connected one ma. How you learn, it could be through books, through podcasts, and all this. So I think that should be a wider berth. But my key fixation is still very much on the unemployed, and especially the long-term unemployed. For many of such people that I know of, and I'm in some of this WhatsApp group that has many of them, any career transition, career conversion and all that is too long already. I need to put food on the table yesterday. So it's really speed to market. So how can we help at the policy level to go back to market very quickly? And if it's a structural issue because, no more industry and all that, how can then we step in to convince another set of employers, another industry to bridge those kind of expectations so that they can seamlessly go back and not go and drive Grab and all that, because that will always be the standard choice one among all the people that I've spoken with.
Because it's no choice, right?
That's true.
It's no choice. Yeah.
So how can we as a, come up with policy or even new programs to expand that options for everyone?
Yeah, fair. I think last year we did talk a little bit about this underemployment problem, right? There was a bit of a discussion, and then I think Prime Minister did tease like, maybe some sort of, I can't remember what word he used, but some sort of like unemployment, insurance of some sort, right? Maybe not as an insurance product itself, but some sort of a safety net, right? It's not the market type of product, right? This sort of thing must be state,
Right,
right?
at policy
Yeah,
level.
at policy level. So there was a bit of a teasing on that front, but I think this year that whole thing, is a bit back to. I mean, listen to our other podcasts. It's a bit back to like, okay, like you 加油啊, we support you. It's no longer like we're gonna expand
I
this
think
net,
actually, I think a few months ago it was brought up again.
Oh, really?
And I'm honestly quite surprised it didn't start off as something foundational. Because even I have a friend who's like 37, 35. Okay, right, the kind of age. It took like 5-6 months to go back to market. Yeah, and people would have obligation and all that. And you also do not want to be in the position where you just grab the first job that comes along and then make yourself unhappy, make your kids unhappy, and then lower TFR because you don't have more kids. So it's all connected one lah. So I feel, we should really look at how you could make your citizens happy so that they will make the nation happy.
No, since Adrian really talked about, I guess, the job seeker or the employee side, I think my parting words is more on the employer side, and especially I think the small business owner or the SMB employer. My wish is, I think I really feel like they're actually quite knowledge scarce and time scarce. So for them to figure a lot of these things about, how do I think about where to invest in terms of skills, where do I invest in terms of like creation of new jobs and all that, it's very, very tough. And Reggie, you said that, it's not trendy to be prescriptive anymore. I don't know, man. I think they can use a little help. I think it'll be good. I think they will really appreciate it.
I think so. You give me all these things to choose from, this grant, that grant, this one. It doesn't even sit in my mind. It just moves on because I'm chasing the next dollar. I'm chasing the next dollar to keep this organization moving, right? So it's a very different set of considerations lah. So in closing, maybe for me, shouting out to the SME owners, right? I think some of the senior workers really worth your consideration. Because truth be told, you cannot compete in the younger talent pool market lah. Right? That's the reality, right? All the best people get scooped out. Before school start, they already get scholarship already, right? So then the remaining ones haven't start management trainees, sign 3 years already. And all sign bonds. All the best ones get scooped up in the early times, right? And some of them may end up, because of changing priorities, enter the job market at a later phase in life that opens up an opportunity for you, right? So I think a lot of smaller enterprise bosses should really think about this, right? You want to take AI on some of your operational repetitive things. You might want to push out some of the jobs that are more, like on the ground, that you can, more repetitive. You can see whether you want to push to other country, But some of the brains, some of the decision making, some of these kind of overall management, right? You may find good gems, in this pool. Right, don't waste it. Okay, so we end on a happier note. So, okay, with that, I thank you for joining us in the podcast today, and we have many other podcasts planned for you. Anything, put in the comment section, let us know, and we hope to see you in the next podcast. Okay, that's it. Bye-bye.